and I'm here with Karen Prazen. I'm Katie Burke, and we are today having a conversation, of course, about being a modern priestess. And thank you for being here with me, Karen. I'm really happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I was thrilled to see this project that you're creating. And yeah, just really happy to be here.
Oh, good. Thanks. All right. Well, I would love to hear a bit about your story and how is it that you've come into doing the work that you are?
Yeah. Well, it's been a long journey. And I'm just amazed to see where I am right now. I wish that I could show you, because even just a couple months ago, I would not have believed that this is my reality. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Or if someone had told me, years ago that this is where I would be, I would never have believed them.
Hmm.
Even on this moment, I'm sitting on a crystal biomat that I used to. I had a friend that had one, and I saw it and said, "Oh, I would never be able to afford that. I would never be able to have this life that I'm seeing, that she's created."
Hmm.
I consider her a priestess for sure. She's a good friend named Meredith, and now I'm sitting on one, and so it
Yeah.
just really shows, the power of transformation and how quickly it can actually happen for us.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm here living with my partner in a yurt on a beautiful orchard. And how I got here was by getting out of a toxic, abusive relationship that I was in for 8 years. And I kind of allowed myself to say no to this kind of structured social world that I
Hmm.
was in with graduate school and the idea to get my license as a psychotherapist. Um, and it just, was crushing me.
Yeah, I
And
know. I know that feeling. Yep.
okay,
Yes,
great.
I do. Yeah.
um, and yeah, so several years ago, I healed myself from an eating disorder and from addictions, using meditation and prayer in particular. Um, I was in a 12-step program, and that was wonderful. So, if there are women out there struggling with addiction or codependency or eating disorder, I think it's an incredible place to start. But what it did not give me was the awareness that divinity was inside of me.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's a really big issue with a lot of spiritual teachings that we can find ourselves working with, that God is outside of us.
Hmm.
Um, and one day in a meditation, when I was first starting to learn meditation, it was required by my sponsor in 12-step program to meditate and to pray in the mornings. And that's how I started to learn to stop the extremes that I had going on with food. Um, so just kind of sitting with, I guess, those demons every morning, whether it was the desire or the disgust that I had with myself. One day, after a couple years of this, it just came through me. I realized that my body is a temple and that I am sacred, and that to deny my body food or to gorge on food or whatever it was, to abuse myself in any way, was to deny the sacred in everything.
Yeah.
And it was really from that day that I can't say I've not harmed myself ever again. We slip all the time, but I'm in no way doing damage, to like the temple, the vessel that I
Hmm.
am. And if someone would have told me that, years ago, I would never, I don't know if I could have seen that. I don't know that I could have believed that. If someone would tell me that I was able to get out of that relationship, I would not have believed it. And to be
Hmm.
with the partner I am now, in this place that I am now, doing the work that I am now, I wouldn't have believed it. So it's incredible, just
Yeah.
the power of practice and prayer, and and time and consistency and devotion and commitment and what that can really do for us.
Absolutely. I'm so
Mm.
happy to hear that you were able to come out of that. And I'm sure, and it is one day and one step at
Mm.
a time. So I'm happy that you shared that, because I do find sometimes it can seem a little overwhelming to see someone's story from so, I'll use myself as an example, so like so broken and so lost and so confused on how could I ever be where I am today. But then to see how far someone can come in such a short amount of time, it really, I'm so happy to hear it. It sounds like you are very dedicated in your daily life then to keep walking towards this most ideal, most sacred, divine aspect that's already in yourself. So thank you for doing that and embodying it, because that's what we need more of. We need to see the embodiment of this work.
Mm.
So yeah, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to make a comment about that. Just
Mhm.
because as I'm transforming, oh, there's some feedback. I wonder where that came from. Do you hear the feedback?
I'm okay now. I just closed out one of the programs on my computer because I thought it might be messing with us a bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So I'm still transforming.
Mm-hmm.
I still have limiting beliefs. I still get confused and unsure and insecure and look outside of myself for that reassurance or that feedback. And as I'm walking away from wounded parts of myself, like loving them so much and transmuting them, people around me are kind of off kilter about that and
Yeah.
almost kind of giving me those messages like, you can't do that,
Right.
You can't take 3 months off of work to heal. You can't make that much money doing what you love. You can't call yourself a priestess or an oracle or a ceremonialist. You're only 27.
Mm-hmm.
And as I am still continuing to transform, I am noticing the world around me kind of projecting the insecurities back to me. And it's just every day a test and every day a commitment, like you're saying, like that dedication to just continue following like what is true for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, despite the adversity. So the adversity really used to be the suffering that I caused to myself. And now it's, okay, how is it still being projected outside of me? And how can I manage that?
Mm-hmm.
And love it all. And yes, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for reminding me that I'm still unsure sometimes and like still working through these things.
Yeah. How do you
Mm-hmm.
work through that? How do you, 'cause it sounds like, I talk about this a lot with my clients about mothering ourselves, like being that divine mother and divine father to ourselves, so that when you are being told you can't make that much money doing what you're doing, you can't, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
How do you turn that conversation around back to yourself and talk to yourself in a way that helps you get through those moments?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, with unconditional, undying love
Yeah.
for myself, knowing that I'm creating this reality outside of me. Um, but often, what I do is when I notice a judgment coming at me, or whether it's, especially when it's coming at me from someone, I stop and I ask myself, I repeat it back to myself. So, just for example, if I say, oh, my sister is so lazy and she never cleans up after herself, it's a judgment, right? Um, I'll say it back to myself. Karen, you're so lazy and you never clean up after yourself. I stop and I feel, how does that feel inside my body to say that to myself? Usually not good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask myself, is there even a grain of truth in it for me? So if someone is judging me, I stop and ask myself, oh, do I believe that that's true about me? And if I do, even a grain of truth, then I thank them for reminding me that that's still a seed in my mind.
Mm.
And if it's not true, if I know it's not true, I just send love and compassion,
Yeah.
because they're afraid, they're threatened by me.
Yeah.
And then I just hold love.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm
Hmm.
letting that soak in first. I'm like, yes, that is a beautiful practice, and one that can be used multiple times a day, every day. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. So, um, thank you for sharing about your journey and how you've gotten to where you are now. So, what is it that uh, that you're passionate about, and that you where is your service? What are you working on now?
Mm. What? That's a great question because I created a basically services around this concept of the sacred plate, that everything that we put into our bodies is an offering to the divine within us. And that really helps us stay in that vibration of non-harming and love and healing. And now that I'm quite healed from my eating disorder and that damage to myself, I realized that that's not exactly what I'm attracting anymore in my work. I'm still always wanting to help women with how they treat their body. But now I'm kind of moving forward in this place of the body is a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we're on this pilgrimage. So, I'm working a lot with women, sharing their gifts and exalting themselves as, a holy man or a holy woman, or really whoever it is that you are, is who is it to say that we're not holy, that we're not priestesses or priests of our own heart. So I'm working a lot with that right now, is to really hold a lot of space. I'm holding a lot of ceremonies in my community, and ritualizing everything. I had this thought the other day: if these really harmful things in our lives that we see around us, like loved ones with alcohol or drugs or things, if those were truly ritualized, could we have a harmful society? That's something I'm really working with right now. And um, additionally, some ideas about racism and about how white women in particular can really embody love and the divine feminine Christ consciousness, and come to a place of creating more community and diversity in the privilege that we have, and sharing that. I think, especially women. So I used to be an international model, and that's really where my eating disorder came from. And when I realized that I was spreading an impossible beauty standard to foreign countries, that's when I stopped and just left in the middle of a contract and went to India. Kind of began a healing journey. Um, Basically, I started to realize that with privilege and with beauty comes great power and great responsibility. And so I'm creating a council of women called the Order of the Rose, which is going to be a group of women that are dedicated to social justice programs and holding each other accountable for that. So that's a direction that I am going in, something I'm really excited about for the next year. So yeah, a lot is happening for me regarding dreams about humanity and dreams about diversity, and supporting people in those larger projects.
I love that. I think there's a big opportunity for sacred advocacy. So I love that you're going in
Yeah.
that direction, and I want to hear much more about that as that starts to unfold. So please keep me in the loop
Mm.
about that offering. Yeah, I want to know more. That sounds really exciting, and really necessary right now. How are you keeping yourself fueled personally to do that kind of work? Because that's a big vision, and a lot of the women that I'm speaking to in this, I mean, a lot of women have big visions. That's kind of the time that we're in right now, and so how do you keep yourself fueled to keep going every day? What does that look like for
Mm.
you?
That's such a good question, because that's the foundation of any work that we're doing, personal work and service. And basically, there's two things. One is a commitment to spending 30 minutes a day at the feet of the divine.
Mm,
Um,
I love that.
that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
that's where it started for me, just, learning to meditate, and really being committed to that in a devotional way. It's critical. So starting my day off like that is really, really important, because that's where I get clear, and that's where I receive guidance, and that's where I'm reminded that within me is a freight train of love, and that whatever I am supposed to do with that love, that's what I do. And so, creating that foundation, what happens for me is that the same messages come to me every single day. And those messages that come and go, I'm a little bit like, okay, maybe I don't act on that. But the ones that won't leave me alone, that are continuously, kind of calling to me, that's how I stay committed. That's how I stay focused, is really just deep listening and deep trust. So that often happens, like the clearest messages often come through the new moon, I've noticed for myself. So I really pay close attention to that. And then the second thing, other than just my meditation practice or my devotional practice, is moon lodging. I just spent the weekend in the teepee where I live, sleeping in it and mooning and making fires and praying and listening. So giving myself that time away from even my partner or from, just distractions has been really critical. And that's where my deepest dreams come through. And that's where I am with my shadow in a different kind of way. And staying really consistent with that has been really important. I heard a medicine woman say, I don't know where it came from, but this idea that when all the women bleed on the earth again, the wars will be over.
I've heard that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's a practice that I find myself, it's an easy one for me to say next month. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today, because that is that was foundational for me in my spiritual awakening, was honoring that time and bleeding on the earth, offering my blood to the earth. That was all a really, really, it set such a strong foundation for myself. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I don't think anyone else has mentioned that in these conversations. And there's some more to go, and I'm actually thinking that this is something we'll get more into. But I'm really happy that we're bringing attention to that in this conversation. And so, when do you bleed with do you like follow the lunar cycles with your personal cycle? Is that part of your practice?
Well, right now I'm bleeding on the full moon, and I have been for a while.
Yeah.
So I just, bleed when my body is ready to bleed, I guess.
Yeah. And is that time is when you go and you kind of have that alone time and you're sleeping in the teepee, and that's when you're having that time for yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So it takes a lot of flexibility, and canceling appointments and just saying no. Just this past moon, there was these big events that I had committed to, even with my partner, and I just said no. Like, we bought tickets to things, and I just said no. This is what I have to do. And luckily, he's supportive in that. But it's actually been difficult regarding my cycle, because I ended a pregnancy almost a year ago with herbs, which was really empowering. But my body has definitely been adjusting, and it's been painful. But I also see it as a really important initiation, to let my body do what it needs to do, and just trusting that all is well and all is right. And even though the cycles are hard, it's a blessing, always a blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's really, I'm so happy that this came up, because I think it was such an important first step for me personally, to honor that time and to say no to things, and to say, actually, this is something that I need right now. I need this time, or I need, I need to be in my own womb create that space for myself. So that's something I really do feel inspired to, after hearing you speak about it, to get back into myself, especially as we come up on the autumn and the winter, and we are just kind of coming more into ourselves. Is something that I think could be really beneficial for everyone. That's a really wonderful, gentle reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what else. Any other? You mentioned that you studied in India, or maybe you didn't study, but you were on a spiritual journey there. Are there any other more ancient traditions that you lean on, that you find comfort in? At least right now, I kind of go through phases myself with different archetypes or different lineages, but any that are that feel foundational for you?
Mm. That's such a good question, because I have found that our modern way of life was creating more illness within me. And so I specifically did research back on other ancient traditions to figure out how the heck do I eat? How the heck do I be in relationship? How the heck do I pray? Nothing was really making sense to me. So I think that for me to name like which traditions are really I'm feeling close to feels hard right now because I'm going through such a deep transformation, and I am specifically this is hard to talk about because it's happening right now to
I
me.
understand. Okay.
No, but it's good. I'm really listening to like the God inside of me and asking like what traditions are mine and what traditions am I creating.
Yeah.
And what's really been helping that is this idea that there's a golden thread coming from the center of my heart, like the deepest cave of my heart, and I'm just doing a lot of breathing like into that golden thread, and anything that my thoughts or actions that are not vibrating with that way, that truth, that dharma, that middle path, that Christ consciousness vibration is no longer serving me or humanity. And so I'm staying really committed to that. So I guess even in just saying that, I am blending so many traditions. Over the summer solstice, I led a ceremony at my first 5-day retreat. And we had Lakota songs, and we had silent meditation, and we had Gayatri mantra from Hindu tradition. And what I'm seeing now is that it's such a time of blending, creating harmony through that golden thread of truth that is in all of the ancient traditions, and creating our new ones.
Yes.
So I love that question because we are drawing from so much. Like in this information age, we have access to just endless wisdom. And as we all awaken, we realize that that wisdom is also in our DNA and wanting so badly to share with us. And it's hard to choose one.
It is, and that's something with this modern priestess movement, a real core belief for me right now is that we all have so many spiritual roots. I mean, our spiritual roots are pretty widespread, many of us. I feel very connected to, personally, I feel very connected to ancient Egypt and a lot of the mysticism and studying that. But then there's also part of me that's very interested in the Order of Magdalena and studying Mother Mary. And, so I feel this very widespread, like a root system where there's a lot of different paths to where I want to soak up traditions and rituals, mantras, or even just the way that I adorn myself and express myself. So with this modern priestess movement, I think you're right. I think it's about all of us creating, honoring, of course, like where are these ancient traditions coming from, and honoring them, but then also blending too,
Mm-hmm.
when necessary. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been something I've been playing with recently as well, where it's, yeah, I feel I'm right there with you, where it's just like, what spiritual root system feels the best to tap into right now, and maybe next
Yeah.
year it'll be something else. Um, but that, and especially as the seasons change, and it's such a time right now where we're transitioning into, when we're recording this, transitioning into autumn. Um, so yeah, for me personally, that's a time where it's a little bit of a check-in and what feels good to be working with right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I it's so funny because I grew up not in a religious family, but with just going to some different churches and things like that, and and I never would have guessed that I would be so interested in Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
You
Me
know,
either. Yeah.
it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is really beautiful to have that full circle moment. And my husband was raised Catholic. And so for him to, I think, totally look at all of that Christian mysticism now a bit differently has been really healing for him. So he can now see what it's almost like he can see the Christ consciousness versus maybe what was there that wasn't serving him in that religion. But it feels good for him to have those, those, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like these, I guess I'll just use like the spiritual roots analogy again, where these rooted terminology and figures that, part of that feels really good growing up, but then there's other parts that maybe don't resonate. So I agree with you that it's been surprising for me this year to have that new perspective on Mary Magdalene and Jesus, and Mother Mary was never a figure I saw on my radar at all until this year.
Yeah.
And has actually come up quite a bit in a lot of the conversations that I'm recording. So I feel her very much helping move this along. And it's really, that is something I look forward to, women like you and I helping people heal that. Because I think that there's quite a bit of trauma, and especially where I'm right here in the Bible Belt. And so there's people around me. That's a big trigger. That's a deeply rooted trigger for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's heartbreaking. And thank you so much for letting that come through you and doing what you're doing. It's so inspiring because it gives even me, an opportunity to say, like, yes, I am a modern day priestess, and come with that, with a, in a place of grace, and to have people see, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to exalt yourself. It's okay to know that you're holy and you carry the love, of these traditions that mean so much to you. It's inside of you, And I think that's what Jesus and Mary Magdalene and the Buddha want for us. They want us to awaken to it inside of us and walk with it, instead of having it on the altars or, even going to the temples. And that's why coming into the temple inside of myself and wanting that for other people so badly is fueling me.
Yeah. Well, how can we access more of your consciousness? What kinds of work are you doing, especially for the women like online who want to connect with you, or maybe locally? I hope that there's women in your local area who happen to find this conversation. How can we access more of your consciousness and your teachings?
Oh, well, I'm doing a lot of webinars, free ones, just because I love gathering in prayer. And it's funny because lately I'm getting a lot of feedback that people could be intimidated, by anyone that is doing something in this way. But the truth is that I need this. I need to gather with people, and I need to come together in prayer and in reverence, and to meditate together or pray together, whatever it is, and to just commune. And so I try to create it, wherever I can. I would definitely say to look on my website and check out my events page and the webinars, and to see why, when I'm calling people in, just from that place of I need to be in that space too.
So beautiful.
So hopefully a lot more to come.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. It's a really, yeah, I feel a really beautiful connection between us. So thank you for reaching out. I'm happy that that you were able to be part of the series, and I will speak for myself, and I hope the women watching will keep an eye out for what is to come, especially with the work around advocacy and. I'm interested in hearing more, so please keep me in the loop. Keep us in the loop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Katie. You are creating just waves of possibility and inspiration for women all around the world. Thank you so, so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Yeah.